And we're live, coming from Massachusetts. It is the Pirate Party, and this is our first just fun, hopefully long, but maybe not because I'm lazy, pirate chat coming to you. I got Jamie, the core master, Malt, the mastermind, and of course yours truly, a dragon made out of lightning, your quartermaster here. And so we were just having some technical difficulties. We were planning on getting this going for 7 o'clock, but we had Windows struck again. Malt, what was going on with that mic?
So I've got about 3 different layers of specific audio interface between like the operating system and the operating system sound panel and the 2 proprietary audio drivers this laptop shipped with.
2?
Yeah, 2. Yeah.
Hardly necessary, I'm sure.
You know, I've got the Dolby and I've also got the Connextant audio for when I don't want to go full Dolby. It's, you know, it's consumers' preferred choice.
Does it go to 11?
I think so, but the laptop's probably going to catch on fire if I try.
Probably.
Well, hopefully that fire extinguisher is not too far back. So what we're looking to do tonight for you guys in the audience is really just cover some current topics that are going on in the news, tell you about some events that are coming up. Probably one of my most favorite topics that makes me just throw up a little bit in my mouth is what's going on with the president and this latest barrage of pain in the face. What was it exactly? He's denying with the spy.
Oh, he wasn't denying it. I think he was saying that they were spying on him when it was, you know, it's an informant. It's not exactly a spy. I thought it was interesting some of the stuff that came out about him meeting with people from representatives of Saudi Arabia and people from Israel about how they could help with the campaign, which, you know, if any money is exchanged, is illegal. Unless you use Citizens United and go and run it through a bunch of other 501c3s or 4s or 527s, then it's hidden. It's not legal, but it's hidden.
Yeah, I think that still falls onto the illegal category, you know, of sketchy governmental things, but just because you add more banks doesn't make it legal.
Yeah.
I'm kind of concerned that this is the mark of when he starts trying to organize like a nationwide resistance to the Mueller investigation. Like he seems to be like ratcheting up the intensity of the attacks and the specificity of his demands to end it. And Rudy Giuliani is a goddamn putz. So Lord only knows what's going to happen there.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting looking at the upcoming election because what was it? So there was a Blue Lives Matter law that Congress voted on, and I believe it was over 100 Democrats sided with it to say that police are a protected class, as if, you know, by and large, anyone would ever, you know, most jurors, right or wrong, would probably end up siding with the police. I'm not saying I support that, but there's really no need for a Blue Lives Matter. It's all just smoke and mirrors. It's another law to throw on the list of laws that a prosecutor can use to go after someone to get him to plead.
Yeah, to add a wrinkle onto that, if what I read is correct, this law also applies to correctional officers. So, yeah, this is going to be used hard.
They want to use that power.
Oh, you mean the guys that run the drugs into the prison?
Yeah.
You know, it's like they just busted somebody recently on it too in Massachusetts where he was smuggling in heroin into the prison and he got caught. And so he's going to be thrown into the same prison from what I understand. I hope they don't, because he's gonna get messed up. But
I mean, I wonder if that's the case. Like, on the one hand, yeah, everyone's always gunning for correctional officers in the jail because rage got to go somewhere. But like at the second hand, on the other hand, if he's the one that was bringing the drugs in, maybe he's still got some friends. Like maybe they remember him. Like, you're the dude that killed my cellmate.
Yeah, no, I don't think you really have friends as the correctional officer. Those guys aren't your friends. They're just not. I don't think they're gonna stand up for him. Be like, no, dude, he's in here because he was my bitch.
Oh.
No, it doesn't work like that, I don't think.
But it'll go to the Senate next, and we'll see if it actually gets stopped there. I have a feeling there'll be a lot of Democrats who still will vote for it. And of course, Trump will support it. But, the Democrats, they didn't stand up to the surveillance bill that went through, and there's other things they haven't stood up to that were going to matter in people's lives. So
the CIA director.
Oh, God.
Oh.
And then there was just today, the Supreme Court just mandated that employees can no longer initiate class action lawsuits against their employers. They all have to go through individual arbitration.
Well, no, what they said was corporations can require in their employment contract individual arbitration. If they don't, then they can do a class action. But if they do require it, then if they do require arbitration, you can't do a class action, which, to be honest, just means people should organize unions, because unions aren't bound by that, right? There's a grievance process as part of a union. So if there's like massive, sexual harassment or, stealing of tips or any number of, not paying people the number of hours they're supposed to work, you got a union and they can go to bat for you, which is what unions are for.
Speaking of sexual harassment, what's going on with that whole Harvey Weinstein case and the Me Too movement and everything like that?
There's been a few abusers outed in that are already trying to position themselves to come back. Like, I think the stand-up comedian, the guy,
you mean the sad dad?
Yeah,
the sad dad, as I like to call him. Yeah, I mean, he was just he was what, just beaten off in front of some women. I don't really see that.
Just
well, it's not like he was peeing on him like certain others.
Oh, come on. And it's the power relationship, right? He's going, do you mind if I masturbate in front of you? What person does that? It's like, if you want to do that, you say, excuse me, could you leave, please? I have something to attend to, right? You don't go and say, do you mind if I sit here hoping that someone's going to join you?
I think that's what he was hoping for, though. And I mean, not that I'm agreeing with him doing it.
So
it's not that I'm agreeing with him doing it, but as a free man, if he wanted to invite some ladies up to his room, I mean, the ladies went up to his room, right?
There's an issue with the seniority in the stand-up scene and the benefit that he could provide for their career, that it is definitely like a superior employee type relationship where the power dynamic is just absolutely unkosher, like 110%.
But but here's the thing: if he asked,
I just remembered something about the Blue Lives Matter bill that I'm gonna bring back. So the Blue Lives Matter groups, one of the first most successful ads that the Russian the troll farms put out on Facebook was for a pro Blue Lives Matter group. So I really even have to ask, and this is coming from someone the family is police officers and service members. So this is coming from a place of honest concern. How much of the support for the Blue Lives group is even legitimate? versus just being astroturfed as like a right-wing reaction to the Black Lives Matter group.
Or the All Lives Matter group, for that matter. So, you know, so I mean, I think some of the families are probably all about supporting it and everything. I wouldn't really say it has nearly as much momentum as the Black Lives Matter, at least in as far as I can tell.
Right, but it certainly gets listened to by the media. The media is always quite willing to go and parrot an establishment or usually right-wing perspective. I mean, you know, the issue is we're not seeing large quantities of cops being killed. I mean, I think I saw a stat where more cops end up in automobile accidents than are actually shot on the job. You know, there are plenty of jobs that have a much higher disability or mortality. You know, the higher degree of mortality or disability, but we're seeing way more people, you know, especially African American men, but also African American women, who are being killed because they were reaching for their license and registration that the cop asked them. When cops go from 0 to pull your gun out and shoot someone, no other country does that. No, certainly not Europe or Japan or South Korea. You know, they don't do that. So we have to question what's happening with cops. They get these $50, $75 training courses that they can pay for that are you're a soldier. Like, they're not soldiers. They're officers of the peace. Isn't that what the term we're supposed to use?
And the thing that is, I think, one of the most bitter, ironic points is that the type of policing these cult of the warrior cop, ultra-masculinist groups are fronting is far more dangerous and results in far more officer-involved shootings and slain and injured officers than in a community policing perspective, where you have people in the community protecting the community who are on like a first name, know your face basis, who maybe even aren't particularly heavily armed.
I actually question how much in Massachusetts, the statistics for Massachusetts. I wonder how Massachusetts stacks up against all these other states. I'm going to look into that for our next little on-air chat. But one of the things that in Massachusetts we don't allow our cops to do is have more non-lethal options, such as tasers and stuff like that. I know in New Hampshire they're allowed to carry a taser and have the taser, but in Massachusetts, no, it's gun, knife, or flashlight. And so having more options for our police officers, I think, would be a really good solution for that.
Well, I think also part of that is de-escalation training, that being able to come into a situation and not immediately think, I have to shoot someone, but instead, okay, here is someone who's in front of me. They are a threat. They have a knife, but they haven't come at me. Can I talk them down? Because we have cases where there are people who, have mental illness, and they, either they have suicidal thoughts and they want to do death by cop or something like that. And cops shouldn't be helping them. They're supposed to make sure that people don't get hurt.
Yeah, and having more non-lethal options like rubber bullets and stuff like that.
Well, there was the girl who was killed at the,
in the crib with the smoke grenade.
Yeah, I was thinking the woman who was shot by a rubber bullet by a Boston police officer at the at one of the World Series games, and they were supposed to shoot the rubber bullet at the ground and then have it deflect off, lose some of its velocity, and then hit someone. That's what they were supposed to do. But the police officer just shot it straight at the woman and killed her.
And I'm really worried that having an array of less lethal alternatives is going to I guess, reduce like the officer's estimation of like how traumatic the violence is. You know, like, I'm just going to pepper spray him a little bit. You know, I'm just going to tase him a little bit.
Oh, pepper spray is so mean too.
Yeah, pepper balls are not fun. I got hit with just like someone next to me at an action in Vermont got hit with a pepper ball, and just the waft, the cloud it creates is not pleasant to be in.
No,
like I've been in a kitchen where I put hot chili peppers in too hot of an oil, and it's something similar to that feeling of the air is on fire.
Actually, it's funny too because they say bear spray compares to pepper spray. Sorry about that cough. Sorry, I'm fighting allergies right now. So, bear spray is so much stronger than human pepper spray. It's actually the opposite. Bear spray is so much weaker than human pepper spray because bear sprays don't take a lot. It just shoots out farther. Human pepper spray is one of the more brutal ones that you can actually get to the face.
It's really distressing how it seems like every year one or two people use Black Friday as an excuse to bear spray a crowd in a shopping mall. So I even wonder, like, if we move to a society that somehow bans fully automatic weapons, if we're going to see just as much.
Well, technically, we don't allow fully automatic weapons.
Sorry.
That was banned.
Actually, one of the biggest things in Massachusetts we've done recently, as far as the bans go, is now we were allowing the production of fully automatic weapons, even though we weren't allowing the selling. We recently pushed through laws that we ban all production of fully automatic weapons now in Massachusetts.
Even for military purposes?
Even for military purposes, we do not build them in Massachusetts now. And as far as the training goes, I know for a fact that they teach responsive training and trying to use it is Massachusetts state law that you are only allowed to use the minimal amount of force required to de-escalate a situation. So it's just, how do you prove it?
Right.
So I mean that's the challenge. So I mean, do we going to put cameras on every single officer so we can judge more base by base situation? And if for any of you guys listening, I would love to get some feedback on that. What do you think we should do in Massachusetts in order to really make sure we have our police in line? Not to knock at the police. I definitely think that they are doing brave and service. It takes a lot to go out there every day. But at the same time, how do we answer to the families of the loved ones they have lost? So it's definitely a balance that I see going on. With that being said, we do have some events coming up. Jamie, could you tell us some of the things that we're doing?
Sure. So one of the groups that pirates have been active in is the Massachusetts Mesh Network, or they're at massmesh.org. And they're attempting to create a community-controlled, net-neutral, in essence, internet service provider or access to the internet that actually values your privacy. And so they're going through different Libra software, free as in freedom, not as in beer, although oftentimes it is free, and putting that on hardware that you can get inexpensively and become part of the network. And so they meet every Tuesday at Industry Labs in Cambridge, Massachusetts, 7 to 9, to basically work on the hardware and the software and get all that working. We'll add the details for those in the description after this. That's one event, and of course, the last Wednesday of every month, which will be in this month, will be the 30th, is the Somerville Crypto Party. That's where people can learn how to use software or change how they operate in choosing good, long, complex, strong passwords, using password managers, amongst plenty of other tools, to protect their privacy. And that's from 6 to 9 at a place called the Sprouts, which, if I recall correctly, is 339 rear. Dang, I'll put that in the comments as well.
I remember our
Summer Street, but it's in Davis Square, Somerville, and that's open to the public. Anyone is welcome to come and join.
We had a very healthy discussion last crypto party
Can
about.
I just interject with the address? It was 339R Summer Street in Somerville, Massachusetts.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Malt. And it was actually a really good conversation. We really went into like how to protect yourself on that last one with unwanted camera spies and how that's really becoming a thing over in India, and really spreading out across the world. People sticking remote cameras in bathrooms and in hotel rooms and other places where you really wouldn't want to have a camera watching you. So,
and also what's scary about it is they're called 1 millimeter cameras, so they're really, really tiny, and you can hide them effectively. They may not necessarily be the best quality of video, though as technology improves, that may change. But yeah, that you can have those there, and they can be used to blackmail you. The lady who was talking about it has found them, heard about them in Turkey and India and other places. They're being made in oftentimes China. That's probably not the only place. And they're really inexpensive. Like you can get them $15 on some places
for like a pack of them, not just like a single one.
No, I thought that was for one. But even still, I mean, people, it hasn't really come here, and we're not advocating anyone, of course, surveil people. We're opposed to that. But we are seeing it in other countries, and no doubt it will be used as, people put spyware on their ex-girlfriends' phones or their current girlfriends' phones to keep tabs on them, which we, of course, completely oppose.
That activity is already illegal in Massachusetts. So, I mean...
Still happens.
Yeah.
There was,
unfortunately, yeah.
A distressingly popular story on one of the Reddit subreddit relationship support groups about someone who had a pen version of that and hid it in their bathroom when their sister-in-law came over for a shower. Yeah.
Right. That's gross.
Yeah, it is. It's a huge problem. And I really think with how ubiquitous cameras are and how we are trained to expect a camera staring at our face that it's going to get worse. So,
definitely. Until we can get better technology in order to detect these cameras.
Yeah, but I mean, are we going to have to do like a tricoder scan every time we want to use a public restroom?
But we were actually discussing that about how, how can we detect these things? Can you like shoot a laser and it reflects off of the camera, which, that could be pretty expensive. Is there a way, if they're wireless, can you pick up those signals? So we were talking about that, and something, I brought up to the Somerville Crypto Party, how we could get one of these cameras and see how they work and see if we can figure out how to stop them, how to identify them there.
Or maybe even making some small type nanobots designed to just search a room for you. Just like throw them out into the room and they scan it. Little hover bots.
I don't know how feasible that is for like a South Station bathroom.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I mean, it would be something that if anybody were doing something like that, it would have to be obviously government sponsored, just for scanning for bugs and stuff like that. Just to have it on the scale that you would need it.
I don't know if it necessarily needs to be government sponsored, but yeah, I mean, we have to get these things and figure it out first.
It's just so bizarre to think that the X1 spy camera that you used to see in those ancient banner ads are like actually real now. The James Bond button camera is not only feasible, but it exists. We didn't use science fiction responsibly.
I mean, somebody out there thought it was a good idea and decided to really try and make it a reality. So hopefully some of the anti-technology will catch up to it. And
Okay.
on that note, so yes, we have crypto parties. We do it once a month, and as you can tell, we are very spirited and think that everyone should attend. So you should too. That
And
way
also-
we can.
Sorry.
I was just gonna say that way we can figure it out and help keep you safe. You're saying, sir?
I was just saying, people can find out about upcoming crypto parties at cryptoparty.in/Boston. And we'll put that in the description as well.
What else are we doing, sir?
Well, I mean, we have we were planning our party conference, and we have a survey up at our website, masspirates.org, that people can fill out and give us feedback about what to focus on and whether to have one big conference or smaller regional conferences and what time of the day and things like that. Also up at our site, there's two other issues that are coming down the pike. One's already here. There's a bill before the Senate, or there's there's 3 different amendments to the budget that that senators are trying to sneak in. Massachusetts senators are trying to sneak in to expand state surveillance power. We have a set of laws that say if you are an organized crime organization, then the government can go and wiretap you. And so they want to expand that into other areas. And the last time we saw this, they wanted to, if you were just a low-level drug dealer, they could go and wiretap you. So, they're sneaking it into the budget rather than go through the normal, go through a committee and get it out of committee and get it to a vote. It just seems, whether it's a good thing or not, and we don't think it's a good thing, but it just seems too sneaky. And it just kind of, how the State House operates. Everything's kind of last minute. You have no time to read it and just vote on it. And so we in the ACLU and Restore the Fourth and things, other groups like that have been trying to stop these bills in the past, and we're trying to stop this one. And you can find out, we'll put it in the description, but if you want to check it out now, you can find it at masspirates.org. There's a blog post about that.
Yeah, there was a couple other sneaky ones too that were coming out. One in particular. I'm sorry.
Yeah, one other one is the U.S. Congress has some bills, S-2823 and H-3301, to expand copyright on sound recordings. Currently, those don't go as far back as other copyright, and so they want to be able to retroactively take things that are already in the public domain and put them under copyright. And we're pirates. We believe you should be able to share our collective culture. We certainly don't. We certainly oppose this bill. So telling your state representative or your senator, your U.S. representative or senator to oppose H-3301 and S-2823. That'd be a good call to do, and you can find out more at masspirates.org.
And
if I can toss in real quick on the issue of public domain, so 2 websites to get an idea of how rich the American public domain really is the Public Domain Review. Publicizes just like really beautiful illustrated manuscripts from the 18th century, old botanical guides for what plants used to look like. Open Culture has links to free movies, free music, free courses. So the Public Domain Review and the Open Culture, if you've never checked out just how rich a public domain we really have, those two websites to get an idea of what it is we should be fighting for.
And really, I mean, as pirates, I know people will always come down like, oh, they're just trying to get stuff for free, but honestly, when things are much more open, it really just lets creativity and innovation blossom in ways that when you copyright something, then you're not. What the copyright does is it has to be so much different, fundamentally from that copyright, that you're not allowed to really tweak this little bit here to make it improve productivity, or just bend it a little bit more at this corner so that it can do this additional function. And it really just stifles that creativity and that function and that forward progress that we as humanity are so well known for, and really stops us from progressing as quickly as we possibly could. Instead of having drones that are doing all the functions for us and helping with in nursing homes and stuff like that, these copyright laws with the bots that they have in Japan and stuff like that stops them from being able for one of our companies to come over and do it because of our own copyright laws. If we were a little bit more free, a lot of the innovations that would benefit humanity would really, really be at our fingertips instead of just still a dream.
It's really impressive how the breadth of human creative expression, how much of it is effectively fan fiction. Like ancient not ancient but old Shakespeare and many of his contemporaries would just ping pong plot ideas from one ripoff play to another. And we are seeing a negative, like it having a negative effect on modern music. There was an issue a few months back where Bruno Mars had to give songwriting credit to a group that had a song that sounded similar to one of his new tracks, even though the original track was not directly sampled. So the amount of work that is now required to make yourself competitive in the creative music scene is getting onerous to a point of deliberate obstructionism. They don't want competition. The mouse doesn't want to have to work for its cheese.
Yeah, and they just want to get paid for somebody else's work.
That too.
That's the thing when you look at Disney, so much, whether it's Rapunzel or Snow White, those were all stories in the public domain. Disney took them and they animated them and they turned them into the movies that we know. And they had their own spin on it, but it's still the original subject is there. And now other people are prevented from taking Disney's things and riffing off of that and remixing that to create something new without getting Disney's permission.
Mm-hmm. Yep, they took some really dark tales and put such a happy spin on it, but in a lot of ways, like The Little Mermaid, that was one that was a really dark tale, and they just made it all so wonderful and happy, and got the sequels for it. But the original tale was supposed to be a moral tale that the morals went right out the window when they put their spin on it.
I mean, you got to wonder if there's still a living relative of the Grimm family that could, under this new proposed law, sue Disney for retroactive copyright.
It depends on how far.
They didn't do sound recordings. This is solely sound recordings. So
okay.
I think it's probably safe on that regard.
maybe, because the money's not there to back it up.
Mm-hmm.
So Disney is well known for being one of the biggest copyright trolls there are. And for those of you who don't know what a copyright troll is, excuse me, a copyright troll is somebody who literally will just copyright something and then sue anyone and everything that moves that could be even closely construed as a ripoff of their work.
Didn't Nintendo just lose a lawsuit over motion controls on something similar?
I'm not familiar.
Yeah, the sorry, never mind. I'm half remembering something from several months ago.
I'm sure that there's something going on between Sony and Nintendo and all the other players in that particular realm. I'm a little behind my knowledge of the gaming world, though. League of Legends for life.
I do know that Sony just announced that they're intending on no longer producing physical media for the PSP. So instead of being able to buy the games and own the games, you now have to basically just rent them from their online service that they can shut off at their whim. So, you know.
Oh, you mean Google Play? I mean, sorry, what?
Google Play, Apple Play, it's all the same. I think at this point, people have a moral obligation to jailbreak their devices. Like, you know, yes, it's massively unsafe. You know, yes, it strips out a lot of the innate protections, but you know, we're growing too dependent on our devices, and I think instilling like a healthy fear and skepticism and distrust for these, you know, atrocious time sinks. It's my phone. Is probably healthy for our society.
That and is anything going on with the Digital Right to Repair group? I know we support them on a regular basis.
Sure, there is the Right of Repair group in Massachusetts. I believe the bill did not get out of committee. So I think for this session, we're not likely to see anything, but they will come back next year. And for those who don't know, a few years ago, we passed a right of repair for your automobile, such that either if you repaired automobiles, or I believe if you were a consumer, you could get you know, the manuals and the access to the software to diagnose cars, because as we know, cars are just computers with wheels, or many computers with wheels. And so there's an effort afoot to be able to do that for your devices, such that they can't go and say, oh, your iPhone or your Android, you cannot repair that. You have to go to the Apple store or someone who's paid us a lot of money in order to repair our devices. That people can go and get the manuals they need and the tools they need to be able to fix the devices. What's interesting, a bunch of like 6 or so months back, I remember meeting some of them, and they were, you know, one guy was commenting that, yeah, I had to go and get the repair manual that was in Mandarin because that was the only way, and then you'd have to go and have someone translate it, because that was the only way to get, you couldn't go to Apple and say, give me the repair manual in English. No, you had to go and get one that was in Mandarin that had already been kind of redone, you know, there illegally. And so this law, this right of repair law for your devices, would mean that you could fix your own phone or replace the battery, or tinker with it and come up with something new, hopefully.
Yeah, one of the reasons that companies are so eager to crush this is that they want to start leveraging part of the product cost into the cost of maintenance and repair. If the Apple Genius Bar has to compete with somebody running like a cell phone 911 mall kiosk, that mall kiosk is money out of their pockets. So the anti-competitive aspect on it is extremely tempting, and especially for these companies that are now making money offering services instead of products, like the I think I saw an ad for a car you can subscribe to. I think it was an Audi. They mentioned having an app in the Apple App Store. I don't know what you can do with a car in an app.
Oh, did you? This is a little off topic. I'm sorry, but do you hear about? Speaking of apps and cars, do you hear about the woman getting run over by an Uber and things just like, nope, I'm out of here. It was a hit and run by an Uber. Or
Yikes.
yeah. So that event has now occurred. But just to put this whole situation in context for you guys, it's like grabbing a game and then the game is broken. And instead of allowing you to fix the game, they're just like, no, buy this DLC. Yeah, you want it. You want this DLC, this tasty DLC. Oh, how much does it cost? The same price as the game. And over and over and over again. Oh, your game's broken again. Oh, pay us another. Or a good example too is the Call of Duty franchise.
Yeah.
Over and over again. Please buy a whole nother game for new maps.
Yeah, it's revolting. The amount of focus being put by mobile game producers into like slot machine type risk and reward mechanics is it's a huge turnoff. I tried playing I forgot what it was. It was one of the Adventure Time games where for every single time I got to play the game, there were 4 to 5 roulette wheel random chance draws that it I got an hour into it and just walked away. I just looked at a book instead.
Yeah,
I didn't even read the book. I just looked at the book.
Sorry for interrupting. I was just saying the Diablo effect. Random generated nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
So most songs, no, just joking.
Oh,
That's harsh, I know.
Well, you know it's okay because those songs will be protected soon.
They're protected the moment they're put out there, or the moment they're registered, at least. So to going back to your subscription thing, I looked it up, and normally when you buy a car, your choices are to buy it outright, to put down a down payment and lease it for 2 years. But this new option would be you could how you can go and you can sign up, pay as you go for your mobile phone on a month-to-month basis. Well, this is kind of similar. You're paying each month to use the car, which will be interesting when you stop payment and then you can't get into the car because it doesn't listen to your keys anymore. So, yeah, that's part of the problem that we see with computers and cars. It'll be in your house. You won't be able to get into your house if you don't make your down payment. They'll just lock you out of your house.
Oh, that's gonna go over great.
Oh yeah.
Oh, did you want heavily toasted toast? That's an extra $5 a month.
Yeah, really.
I mean,
there'll be an app that you have to go into the internet to use to connect to your toaster, as if analog settings were somehow bad. I don't know. There'll be a startup that will come up with it. They'll get $300 million and come up with no product, but whatever.
It only costs 3 cents a day, though.
There was so going through this most sacred of middle class duties of designing a wedding registry, I found a sous vide machine that had no onboard controls, just a Bluetooth unit and an app. So good luck busting that thing out in 5 years. Like if the obfuscation of ownership, like the separation of the exchange for money and the possession of the product is, I think, one of the more interesting phenomenon to arise in late capitalism. Like there's just so much effort being put into changing the idea of what it means to own something that you really just have to ask, why is it honestly that much more profitable? Like, who are they competing against that this is a beneficial strategy?
Well, I mean, it's a constant revenue stream as opposed to I buy a product and then, as a company, I sell a product and then I get no future revenue. But if you have to pay them $1 a month to use your toaster, then that's additional $12 on top of whatever the price of your overpriced toaster was. Your web-enabled toaster that is, has poor security is now part of a botnet DDoSing.
It was
some DNS
Netflix
or something.
Well, that was
somebody
1 or
hacks
2
it.
summers ago that like Netflix and Twitter was down for like a solid week because someone exploited a flaw in smart toasters.
Let me take.
I think that was the Dyn. I think that was when Dyn got a massive DDoS attack that was run by a whole bunch of Internet of Things devices. Yeah, I think that's the thing you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Do you mind if I take this conversation in a completely different direction?
Go for it.
Because I'm wondering what happened to across the pond with the Brexit thing. I was eagerly awaiting to see how like the European Union was going to crumble and we Americans would be on top again, and then nothing. All I got is like a sad like semi-political wedding over in England, and I was forced to watch it.
I think it's still going on. Like I think it's at this point they're negotiating the specifics of how, Britain is going to be integrated into European society without the European Union. I think that takes a while.
Not really. It's like, hey, we did it. We're like, hey, England, go piss off. That's all they have to do is be like, hey, Europe, piss off. And then,
so it's a 2-year process. Once they start the timer, they have 2 years to negotiate new terms. Now, what's interesting about it is the United Kingdom. When they joined the general agreement when they helped form the general agreement on tariffs and trade with the U.S. as part of at the end of World War II, they came in as a country. But when the World Trade Organization was created out of the GATT, it wasn't the United Kingdom that was negotiated. It wasn't the United Kingdom that is a signatory to that. It was the European Union. So there's already part of the European treaty such that you cannot, if you're part of the European Union, they decide all of your trade agreements. You can't go outside of that unless you're no longer part of it. So basically, England or the United Kingdom has less than 2 years at this point to negotiate something with Europe as to, little things like, how do we deal with accepting your planes landing in our airports, to how do we deal with, cross-border transfers of money or products and customs and all that. There's a lot of tiny little agreements. There's like an agreement about nuclear power, and there's agreements about, I don't know, I was reading about it. There's a lot of different agreements. So those things have to get ironed out with the European Union. And then once they're out, then they can join the WTO. Then they can make agreements with the United States and other countries. And even then, some of those things could take 5 or 7 years. So the UK government, UK economy is going to be hurting a great deal unless they play their cards right, which they don't seem to be doing from what I've read.
I think Brexit was another early Russian troll farm success.
How so?
I think that was one of the early targets when the Internet Research Agency was still trying to figure out exactly how social media can be manipulated. I think Brexit was one of the first groups they started amplifying, like the pro-Brexit wing. I remember had a lot of IRA support.
I mean, there was a lot of things that were not really going well with the European Union. I think for England itself, from what I understand, there was a lot of people who felt strongly about it. But as far as the actual details of that, I am very curious. I know I listened to a couple guys from that side of the pond, and I never really figure out how I feel or stand on it. So, but I am curious because in a national or international community, what happens over there is going to affect us over here, just like what happens over here is going to affect us over there. So, they are our brothers from across the pond, you know. Same thing with France, actually. What happens in France with all the terrorism and stuff like that, I mean, it affects us over here too. So,
Infect is kind of a loaded term. I think we're seeing a lot of the same situations where you have an oppressed and derided underclass that's denied mainstream acceptance. That's going to have a radicalizing effect on anyone. I mean, it's having a radicalizing effect on white men in America to a degree far beyond any possible immigrant boogeyman situation.
Well, certainly, I mean, the European Union has been awful when it comes to what they've done to Ireland or Italy, especially Greece, Spain, Portugal. The system was set up like, it's funny, right? They came up with the central currency, and they really had no concept of running a separate currency. It's not like they were or running a central bank. I mean, it's not like they were the Federal Reserve, which has had decades to organize itself and do what it needs to do and get things and figure out what levers it needs to press or to manipulate. They just completely were making it up as they went along. And so, you look at Ireland. Ireland had a debt of like 20% of its gross domestic product going into the financial crisis, and between the fall and the fall in the economy there, as well as the European Union basically saying to them, "Oh, those banks that are yours, you have to bail them out. If you don't bail them out, we, the European Central Bank, are going to screw you." So suddenly they went from 20% GDP to potentially over 100% GDP in government debt. And so, the European Union did not handle the financial crisis very well. It bailed out the French and German banks and things like that. It's funny, they bail out the Greek government, but what happens is
that the dog.
Sorry. You guys talk. I'll wait for the dog to stop.
Well, I mean, it's really they went to bail out the Greek government, but yay, corruption in and of itself.
I mean, yeah, corruption, but we're dealing with a system of capitalism where treaties and these kinds of trade agreements are used to reinforce massively disadvantageous agreements onto basically the nations that the central organization chooses. Like, so much of Jamaica's debt is held by the World Bank and used as a leverage to make Jamaica dependent on imports from the American mainland rather than self-sufficient, or rather than something a system more self-sufficient. Like, it's cheaper in Jamaica to give children imported powdered milk rather than the fresh stuff the dairy farmers are dumping in the street because no one's buying it, because we have forced a situation where the only way that the Jamaican people can survive is by buying unhealthy, discounted, imported products.
So generally a messed up situation all over the place was what I'm hearing.
Well, our elites aren't very elite. I mean, they seem to not know how to run a government or how to run an economy that benefits everybody. I mean, we haven't seen that since the 70s.
Don't know or don't care.
Why can't it be both? Well, that's why we really need to step up and really find the right people to get this really going.
We need you.
We do, which is why we are recruiting and we are looking for candidates. And now on a new topic, did you see how Facebook is making white men a protected class on Facebook?
Oh, thank God for that.
Isn't that old news?
It's slightly old news,
Okay.
but I'm dipping back a little bit here because kind of something for that all the internet YouTubers are really ripping into. Like, okay, we're late to the party. I'm like that Chris character from that who I'm talking about, the kid from New York.
Yeah, well, we were tweeting about it when it came out and talking about it. But yeah, no, it's good to cover it here. Yeah, I mean, it's their algorithm is such that if you combine if you have if you had some threat against an African American boy that wasn't bad because only African American is considered a protective class. There's some weird nuance to it, such that white men somehow got to be in a protected class.
I think I might be misremembering this, but if I remember correctly, it had something to do with who uses Facebook. That children aren't assumed to use Facebook, so they're not. They're not citizens of the Facebook corporate empire, I guess.
Yeah. Actually, the specific YouTuber I'm calling out right now, and you hear me, boy, it's Chris Raygun. I'm calling you out, boy. I want to do a podcast with you. I'd love to have the conversation with you. I think it would be hilarious because I just find you really, really funny. I'll call out anybody, though, who's a leftist or moderate, a Sargon of Cad, even Bering. I think
Sargon is not a leftist.
He considers himself a leftist.
Yeah, guess what? I can consider myself a unicorn. Shit ain't changing.
Would you debate Sargon of Akkad?
I would give him a swirly. I don't care what he has to say. I don't think he has anything of merit to say, but I will put his head in some fucking toilet water if you can set that up.
I promise nothing, but I would love to see if I could set something up just to have a nice conversation.
I agree. I'd rather see Malt in a unicorn costume myself, but
why not Malt in a unicorn costume?
Debating this gentleman, Sargon.
There is an abandoned an abandoned medical museum in Hartford, Connecticut that has the spookiest toilets I've ever done drugs in, and I will swirly him in that toilet.
Well, let's not get violent. Let's just fight.
There's nothing violent about a swirly.
It's slightly using force. Force to put his head in a toilet.
I'm pretty sure I can ask him politely enough that he'll do it for me.
Okay, I'm sure you can ask him. It doesn't mean he'll do it.
That it'll boost his viewership or expand his audience. Donate enough money to his live stream and he'll do it.
Actually, you know what? Maybe we could do the Swirly Sarkon campaign. We'll donate the money to kids with cancer.
God, yes. That's that. Yeah, I've heard worse ideas.
All right, so just to get back to the Facebook issue, I went and refreshed my memory. So basically, if you were, and they've probably changed it since then. This is 2017. But if you were a white man and you said something like, you can hunt, identify, and kill radicalized Muslims, quote unquote, radicalized Muslims, whatever that means, and that was deemed by Facebook's algorithms as an acceptable thing to say. But if you said all white people are racist, start from this reference point, or you've already failed, that post was removed by their algorithms. So yeah, they had something, they had some issues then, which hopefully they've fixed. Although the problem that we find is we've got these platforms that everybody's using and they get to decide what free speech is and what people can and cannot say. It's not the government, but it's not necessarily a great thing either.
Mm.
I mean, oppression is oppression no matter who does it, from a private entity or a public entity. It's the effect is the same, and I honestly think oppression is a lot more widespread in the private sector than it is currently in the public sector. I mean, we've still got these these baked in social structures that massively disadvantage people of color, inflict just unconscionable amounts of violence on immigrant groups that are just at this point like passively part of the American governance. Like the school funding issue is absolutely designed to concentrate wealth in white hands. Voter ID laws that I forgot what my point was.
People, yeah. I mean, certainly, people spend so many of their weekday waking hours at a job where someone can order you to do whatever it is they want you to do. More so than your interactions with a police officer. Your manager is more likely to give you an order than a police officer is on a day-to-day basis. So I believe we're at about an hour.
We are, and you know what? I think that this would be a good stopping point. It has been a wonderful conversation, especially that we were able to call out a couple people on YouTube, being on YouTube ourselves. Was there any other events that are coming up that we wanted to mention?
Those are the primary ones. Yeah, those are the primary ones at the moment.
Okay, perfect. So, guys, you can always reach us. We're on Twitter, and we're very active on Twitter. So we'll definitely link in the description below. By all means, if you have something that you want us to talk about or anything like that, we are always looking for more ideas. And if you want to support us, that's even better. Because again, what we really want is to fight for your rights, especially on the internet, but for your rights in general, in order to make this world a better place. So we'd love to hear from you. So please do.
Thanks, guys, and thanks everyone for listening. Have a great evening.
Peace out.